Hey everybody out there, it's Michael Eaton.
And Zach Watson.
And we are Two Dudes Review, and we just got out of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the latest film by Guillermo Del Toro.
There we go.
And I'll be honest, I am not much into the horror genre. It's like one of my lesser favorites. I'm more action, comedy, drama. Hey Shelby. But I gotta say, I was a little bit intrigued when you hyped it up.
See, I'm a huge horror movie fan. I love me a good horror movie, whether it's because of the monsters or the slashers or whatever kind of enemy, antagonist that we're supposed to have.
As long as it's not demonic, then we're good.
Oh, come on, those are some of the best horror movies ever. I love me a good horror movie. I love it when it can scare me to the point where I might actually have nightmares that night. To me, it's just, there's so much you can do with horror. And I was really expecting a lot out of this one.
And I gotta say, I'm very disappointed.
I am too, because Guillermo Del Toro has proven himself multiple times over that he can do fantastic work.
Didn't he like do the remake of The Wolfman? Was that him?
I don't remember. I'll have to look at that. But
he's done. Oh no, I know it was The Shape of Water. Shape of Water was really good.
The practical effects,
I heard it was really good. I didn't see it though.
The practical effects that this man does when it comes to creating these monsters to a realistic level, phenomenal. And these characters, these monsters that we had in here that we did see the practical effects for, again, phenomenal, amazing. However you want to describe it, they are some of the best looking monsters in modern day media of horror films.
The one in this one?
Well, a lot of them are practical effects. The only one that wasn't was the Jangler.
The only practical effect I saw was the Scarecrow.
No, the fat lady was too.
Well, yeah, that was a bodysuit, but my God,
the bodysuit scared you, didn't it?
No, but this film may not give me nightmares, but man, that was freaking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
That fat lady walking down the hallway slowly as possible. She's like hugging, like, oh, basically, we're gonna go into the plot.
A little bit of spoiler.
That's spoilers. Who gives a crap?
People who want to see the movie spoiler free.
No, come on. So the basic plot of this movie is four or five teenagers?
Oh, it was a grand total of 5 teenagers.
So, basically, teenagers.
No, 4.
4 teenagers discover this haunted house, and they come across a book that contains stories told by a dead person named Sarah Bellows. And
the way the whole plot worked with it, the reason we were debating 4 or 5 is because there's technically 5 teenagers, technically 6, but also technically 4. The plot works as such. This little town where gossip gets around really quick.
Yeah,
this super rich family had this girl that they locked up, one of the daughters, out of all their kids because she looked different. She suffered from albinism, and for people who don't know, that's a condition of paleness in the skin, a condition of being white.
Mm-hmm.
And with all that going on, they also had some illegal business going on that was in some ways poisoning the water in some sense, as they kept saying.
Yeah, that was a little hard for me to follow.
And so what they did was they made her seem like this monster who was poisoning water, and took her to the psychiatric ward and gave her electroshock therapy, as well as a couple different other types of super harsh therapies that are not necessarily in practice anymore.
Still, whenever shock therapy is brought up in a movie, I get unsettled. What's up, Daniel?
And the whole way it worked was she ended up becoming like this evil spirit who wants to get revenge because she loved telling stories, and her favorite stories to tell were scary ones. And so she started writing in this book. Somehow black magic was possibly involved.
Yeah.
And when someone's name was written into the book, that story would come to life. Mm-hmm. Pretty much like a story-based version of the Death Note from the Death Note anime.
Yeah, for those of you who actually watched Death Note anime, my hat's off to you.
The way it messed with you, though, is these kids found it. Mm-hmm. They did this whole little rhyme where the person who opens the book and was looking at it is like, Sarah Bellum, tell me a story. And all of a sudden, the main bully of the whole film, just goes home, runs into the Scarecrow that he hates so much, and
the Scarecrow fights back. I mean, this ain't a spoiler. You saw it in the trailer.
Pretty much the way the whole movie is teenagers find book.
Mm-hmm.
Book filled with dark spirit. Dark spirit kill them through story.
And teenagers try to fight back.
Exactly, but like your generic one, since this isn't a rated R movie, you're not going to see a lot of blood or gore.
This is PG-13, so it's okay for teenagers.
It was the movie could have been a lot better if they didn't have to tone it down, because then they could go out a bit more on their kills. You can let Guillermo Del Toro get even creepier with how some of these scenes played out, because a lot of these scenes felt like you would find them in a indie horror movie where the person has like such a slow and little itty bitty budget.
To me, this just feels like a really long episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Or
essentially, it's what it is.
If you combined Goosebumps of Are You Afraid of the Dark and give it a PG-13 rating, this is basically what you get, because there are a few things I was impressed with. Number one, the practical effect with the Scarecrow. That was
really impressive.
That was really good. The stuff with the teenagers, these are, again, because Hollywood's out of ideas and there's no originality anymore. These are the most cliche teenagers, like the quirky dorks, the nerdy girl who has no friends, and the lonesome newcomer who has a scary, creepy backstory.
And the way they did it this time was kind of clever. The quirky nerd, instead of just being your average nerdy kid, he wasn't completely a nerd. He was just he claimed he was smarter than the average person because he would read magazines and other articles and books and such.
Yeah, he's like the Yogi Bear of the group. He's smarter than the average kid.
Right. And then you got the one kid who's like your troublemaker because he's the one who wants to do all this crazy crap and be that annoying, hyped up one. Mm-hmm. Our main girl, our final girl, if you call her.
Yeah, the heroine of the film.
She's pretty much just your generic. I've got no friends. No one wants to be my friend. This tragic thing happened in my past. Oh, boo!
Yeah. The generic girl who is different, who has no friends, just because she likes horror films. Seriously, you see this girl's room. There's nothing but horror posters all over her wall.
Horror posters, horror books. On her desk is a typewriter with a horror story that she was working on.
Yeah.
But she goes
haven't seen that before in movies.
And she plays this whole thing off like, oh, well, since I like all this horror stuff, nobody else does. It's like, I'm sorry. Have you guys ever actually seen people talk to a real person? Talk to teenagers, anything like that? Because I know a good number of teenagers who enjoy horror movies. And a good chunk of them are girls. Ariel from my fiance who, cameoed in our last review, she loves horror movies. Me and her both do. We get a kick out of them.
Abby, mine, she is not into horror, but she does love a good thriller and suspense film, which I think that
this fits more in that category.
To me, this is more suspense than horror.
This is more thriller.
This is not really going to scare you. It's just going to give you a thrill.
Now, there will be a few moments where you'll get a cheap jump scare. There's like 2 cheap jump scares in the entire film, which I'm personally impressed with. A lot of horror films today work on the whole jump at you fast and hard, but this one was just 2 jump scares. The rest of the time,
the rest of it was
thriller.
Just slow build up. It got super quiet a few times.
Oh, quite a few times. There was that quiet ambiance, like they're trying to set the scene for the big like the big scare, the big kill of that moment or whatever. And they did it well. I will say that. There was a good time. There was one time I actually did legitimately jump a little bit because the way they built up the scare, you had that ambiance, and then they build up the scare with that and get you right when you're least expecting it, and it was really good. It was really well done.
It's not like other horror films where they build up the music too much and the suspense is just dead. You know something's gonna happen because it goes dun 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 dun, annoying music.
Yep.
They don't do that here, which I respect them for that.
The way it all worked out was a lot better than I expected. But at the same time, for me personally, it felt like the film started to drag on after the hour-and-a-half mark, and even a little bit beforehand.
And it's only like an hour and 45 minutes.
And so it really started to drag.
It felt long.
It felt really long, but I think that's mainly because, one, we did not know how to set our expectations for this film.
No,
it's got an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I was hyping it up.
I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes to save my life. Sorry if you do. Their taste is about as accurate as tasting black jelly beans. It's like, you don't believe them.
Well, and the reason I haven't believed him recently is because they say Angry Birds 2 has an 85%.
Oh, now it's like 76.
Okay, thank God.
And yet they're still saying, they say Angry Birds 2 is better than the first one.
Now
they're still saying that, which fingers crossed that it is, because that's gonna be one of our next ones, right?
as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
But the way this movie worked, in some retrospects, depending on how you go in, it's gonna feel long, it's gonna feel dragged on. But the way Guillermo Del Toro did his monsters and the way they faithfully followed the designs of these characters from the books, they made the monsters pretty terrifying. Instead of it being a 2D image of just the face of the monster, the way they went all out with it, I'm impressed with. Granted, there's some CGI in there that's not nearly as horrifying as the Dora the Explorer live-action CGI.
Oh, the monster at the end of it, the main monster at the end of this looks... It looks like...
If any of you have seen
a 3D blob.
If any of you have seen that old video that used to be all over Facebook and YouTube of some random CGI animated mannequin running through the streets as his arms and legs glitched out on him, it's essentially that, but instead of it being a pale mannequin-looking body, it was a bit more detailed to where you could tell what kind of muscular build they were trying to go for, as well as what kind of almost possessed entity shape they wanted with it. Granted, the jokes that happened when it was first introduced was pretty great because, like most horror movies, when you go to the police don't believe you because it sounds so far-fetched. But when something happens and this monster starts to appear, it falls out of a chimney in the police department.
Yeah.
So what does the chief officer do? He's like, oh, hell no, and starts to shoot at it with a 6-shot revolver. Hell's not a bad word. Don't give me that look.
Okay.
But the point is, he shoots at it, and he thinks he's re-killed it. And then guess what happens? The rest of the body parts fall from the chimney.
Yeah.
And then it reassembles itself, and there's one of your cheap jump scares.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie itself isn't bad.
But it's not good either.
It's one of those, it could be a guilty pleasure if you like thriller.
It can be a good, decent rental for date night.
I wouldn't take it that far. I could say easily that Nightmare on Elm Street is a better date night rental. And that one's far older and with less...
Oh, from 1984.
Oh, yeah. I mean original Freddy Krueger, back when he was more intimidating than he was funny.
Oh, yeah. That's what the sequels are for.
Hey, I'm not hating on the sequels. I love that whole franchise.
None of anything. Me and Abby tried to watch the 1978 Halloween. And me being an idiot, I accidentally grabbed the 2007 remake of Rob Zombie's version. And before we could even watch it, her mom was like, nope, you are not doing that. I take it you didn't like that version.
It's alright. It gives us a little bit more of an in-depth look at who Michael Myers is before we know him as the psycho killer.
Yeah.
But if you're going to watch that franchise, you have to watch it from the very beginning, because the newest one that came out in 2018...
I heard that was alright.
That was much better because that replaced half of the timeline that happened, because the way the original movie was... spawned a bunch of sequels.
Right.
All those sequels ended up forming multiple timelines from that movie with multiple rewrites, multiple reworks. And then the 2018 one retconned almost every single movie out of existence besides the original beginning Halloween movie to make it connect with a proper timeline 40 plus years later. And then the next ones coming out are following that same timeline that they had already established with the common lore and common world building as the 2018 one had completed. And
anywho,
pretty much the reason we keep getting off topic with other horror movies is not only because is it kind of funny, but because this one is making us recall back to those. Because as we all know, like he said, Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of had a PG-13 baby here.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
Drexler.
The way I see it is, these are stories I can see being told to kids around that age, maybe a little younger, around the campfire, because it's that kind of thing. It's that kind of movie where you could see these stories being told to someone, but you yourself cannot get in that invested in it because of how the characters are.
Yeah, is it weird to say that all of those characters combined, I just want them to sit around a campfire and just say, by the order of the Midnight Society,
and throw the sand.
Throw
in the
the
fire.
sand on the fire, and just.
I mean, that would be a much.
And the title, Scary
That would be
Stories
a much.
to Tell in the Dark.
That would be a much better way to do the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the way this whole movie works, if you take Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and just replace it with the Are You Afraid of the Dark logo, the only difference is there's no Midnight Society. That's the only difference.
I don't know. Those kids are pretty generic that they could pass for the Midnight Society.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, the way the movie builds, it's not in that canon lore. But the way I personally enjoy it, like I said, it could be a guilty pleasure. In fact, I might find it as my guilty pleasure if I give it another chance when I'm at home and not watching it for review purposes. But I mean, that's only because I can see some of these stories really being told. If I went back and actually read the book that it was based on, maybe I could get a little bit more out of it. Maybe I can feel the kind of suspense they were going for. But otherwise, I just see it as your generic, bland teenage group of trying to fight back some evil force. Ooh.
Yeah.
And then the sequel bait.
Oh, Lord. Which, they sequel bait this freaking thing.
Now, it's not sequel baiting like, okay, we finally beat this dark entity, and then they sequel bait it with the dark entity coming back. It's instead sequel baiting it as this book that these monsters had come from is now the only way to see if they can't get their friends back.
Yeah, they're gonna see. Yeah.
Because the way their deaths worked, there's only so far one death out of our group of characters that actually died that was important to the plot. And that was the bully. The first death, he legitimately died.
Yeah, funny how every bully in these kinds of movies is named Tommy.
Yeah, that was another thing we were making fun of, but when the bully Tommy died, he was killed by Harold, the Scarecrow. And then every other character that was killed, at least in terms of our main cast, they were either saved at the very last minute, or they ended up being taken into this dark, abyss-looking area by the monster that was chasing them. Like, the second kid to be offed in the movie, it's some weird story of a corpse looking for a toe. They're missing toe for whatever reason.
Oh, Lord, that was freaking
That was one of the more nasty-looking CGI moments. But the way it worked was you got that suspense, you got that ambiance. You think, oh my God, he might have actually gotten away. He might be okay. And then out of nowhere, boom, scared. Oh, Lord, and kid disappeared into this dark abyss. And all that's left is literally the nail marks he made.
The claw marks on the hardwood floor.
That he made as he was being dragged away, like, ah! Now, when the other main characters found out what happened, that was all that was left of him. Which means he's dead, but at the same time possibly not dead?
Yeah.
Then you got your next kid after that who keeps referencing this red room that he had in his dream.
I will say, that monster in that segment, do not look in its eyes.
Oh, Lord.
It is so flippin' frightening.
And then
it looks like, imagine your grandma in her face mask coming at you to give you a hug. Like some old lady coming up trying to give you a... I mean, that's what she looked like.
What kind of old ladies are you hugging? Michael?
I'm just...
Michael!
Imagine a grandma going to hug her
Michael!
I'm just saying, listen to my analysis, okay? I'm saying, imagine something frightening, like your grandma has her face mask on, and she comes up to give you a hug. That is nowhere near as creepy as this freaking thing.
Whose grandma are you hugging that you're claiming in the creepy category? That's what I want to know.
It was just hypothetical, man.
I know, but when you put a grandma in there, I'm immediately...
I mean, what else could that thing have looked like? What could that thing have looked like?
Well, if it wasn't such a solid structure of a person, it would have been a blob.
Yeah, that's what I said in the theater. That looks like a white blob
with hair.
And it had a face that, tell me it did not look like Jabba the Hutt's face.
It kind of looked like Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, it did.
It looked like a less alien Jabba the Hutt.
No, yeah, that's the analysis I was going for. Imagine Jabba the Hutt.
There you go.
Jabba the Hutt coming at you and gives you a hug, and not only does this creature give this kid a hug, but she hugs him so tightly that he enters into the body.
Okay, now, let me get some clarification on that, because that sounds very disturbing the way you did it. Yes, the scene itself is disturbing,
Yeah, I mean,
so we're not
you
gonna...
have to see the film to get what I'm saying.
Now, the way it looked to me was, yes, we got Jabba the Hutt with legs and a pale face coming at this kid, but from a distance, if I'm gonna borrow what he was trying to say with the grandma analogy, it looks enough like a woman, but at the same time, for as weird as it looks, it also has this odd serenity with it, to where if the kid wasn't in a panic mode, you might have actually would have thought he would have ran up to give this thing, a hug, because when she hugs him, it's not a vicious, I'm gonna kill you hug.
It's a comforting.
It's a gentle, comforting hug.
That's what it starts out as.
But yeah, as he said, he hugs this thing hugs this kid so tight, it envelops him. Now, the way that happens is because it's a scary story. You got to have that dark twist to it. Do we know what dark twist caused this person to be absorbed into this monster? No. We don't get an answer on that. But I honestly thought it was kind of sweet and compassionate. This kid, this entire movie, after everything had started going downhill for this cast of characters, he was one of the biggest scaredy cats. Like, he was legitimately terrified this entire time.
It's a scaredy cat trope, but my gosh, he pulled it off very well.
He did it very well.
That actor did a really good job being a scaredy cat.
At the same time, that monster hugged him so genuinely, I almost sat there and thought it was really sweet. And then the kid disappears, and I'm like, there goes the sweet moment. Guillermo Del Toro, you took away the sweet moment with your own monster. Like,
that's what Guillermo Del Toro does.
Like, this movie, that scene there legitimately had me going for a minute there, because it looked very comforting.
I will say that is my favorite scene in the movie.
If they would have changed that lighting just a little bit, because the way the whole movie worked is they built up this red room. And at this time, a hospital's records were sometimes referred to as a red room, where they would store records of past and present.
Yep. Past and present patients.
And then this kid was freaking out when him and his friends snuck down there. So he runs off, trying to not get caught, gets caught. Like, people are saying, sound the alarm. But in these hallways that he's in, this weird connected hallway loop thing, he gets lost. And then when this monster starts to appear, every hallway he tries to run down, the monster appears.
Yeah.
Until he gets to, like, this little 4-way hallway, and the monster gets so close that it literally looks like they're in all 4 hallways at the same time, until you finally just see the one. And then the hug. It seems so comforting that, honestly, if you want my honest opinion, when she hugs him, I feel like she's more or less trying to envelop the darkness that he was harboring from his fear. But since it's a twisted story, it's because it might have made her stronger, or made her thinner, because after she absorbed him, she got thinner.
Fear makes the monster grow stronger.
Well, in the way the monster looked after she absorbed the kid, almost looks like she got skinnier.
Yeah.
Like she was somehow rapidly aging, and absorbing that kid aged her backwards.
I thought when she did that, I thought she was going to turn human and look younger.
That's exactly what I thought was happening too, but at the same time, that hug was just so comforting. I almost wanted to hug the monster. Like, you look like you give a comforting hug, actually. Come here, you big lug, and oh, yeah.
Oh, and I'm weird because of my analogy. You're the one who's saying you want to hug a monster.
I'd hug Freddy Krueger. I'd hug him all day. Just come here. Come here, you big bird baby. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, my back.
Yeah, until he scratches you with his flipping claws. Hey, Aaron, what's up, man?
I mean, point is, so far, the movie, it was a lot better than I expected, but it didn't live up to all my expectations.
Yeah. I know plenty of horror buffs like you and a bunch of other people. They are looking for perfection with these kinds of films, and they're not going to get it here. Okay. But I do think, I'm predicting, that they are going to get a sleeper hit. with this film.
You know what? The sleeper hit, when he says sleeper hit, I honestly see it working with this one. Yeah, they sequel bait it. Does it deserve a sequel? I'm not going to say whether it does or doesn't because I kind of want to see what else they can do with it.
Was there a sequel book to this?
Honestly, I don't know. We'll have to look at that. But honestly, from my perspective, I kind of want to see what they do with this whole next chapter of the book, if you could call it that.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see it get a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, honestly, I would claim this more as a guilty pleasure more so than anything else because
because there are some good things. There's
actually a lot of good things about this movie.
It's not like the Lion King remake. It's not like Dora and the Lost City of Gold.
Okay, you're comparing these to movies that were unintentionally scary when this one was intentionally scary.
Yeah, because the
CGI.
Dora and the Lost City of Gold had
Danny
that
Trejo.
terrifying boots and terrifying monkey.
Danny Trejo's voice coming out of that little thing.
And
Guillermo Del Toro, make that movie a horror movie if you want to get any credit back that people would say you lose.
Dora the Explorer horror film? That would be
You
interesting.
could call it Dora the Exploitation film.
Dora the Exploitation.
Well, okay. All seriousness aside, if Guillermo Del Toro would have directed the character designs for Dora the Explorer, my God, we would have had a much different movie.
We would have had a much better movie.
I would have been having a diaper with me the entire time. Nope, I'm gonna need that and strapped in and But leaving this one, I go in there.
You already look like you were gonna crap your pants the first time you saw that flipping monkey.
Oh my God, I was tempted to just. But in this movie, now bring that seriousness back over.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And make it stay this time.
And it's right here in the cup holder.
Oh, hey, Marilyn. Yeah, we kind of got your message too late. So, yeah, next time we do this, we are doing it in the house.
We're going to look into getting like a selfie stick or a tripod or something because otherwise it's hard to find a good spot in the theater to do it.
Yeah, I kept looking all over the place. I'm like, dude, there's no way we're going to find a spot to fit the phone.
But the way the movie worked, I liked it. Honestly, I would like to see it get a sequel, but only if they increase the rating. Instead of it being a PG-13 film, make it a rated R. Because Guillermo Del Toro, your work is great in other films when you can just worry about the monster design.
Oh, you have both a selfie stick and a tripod.
Well, next time we come in, we will talk to you.
Yeah, definitely.
But
we'll gladly make you an offer.
Now, granted, I'm going to say this. The way the movie worked itself, very good. Very fond of it. I'm fond of the designs, both CGI and costume. Granted, the CGI may not have been the top of the line, but the practical effects made up for it in every way possible that I could personally say.
Yeah.
And these characters, for as much of a trope as they were, some of them pulled it off quite well.
Right.
The story at times felt weak. But the way they built up the world did leave it for possibility of sequels. And honestly, it wasn't as bad as anybody would have anticipated. I think it's pretty good. I'm going to put it in my guilty pleasure file later.
So would you give it a thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'd honestly give it a thumbs out. Thumbs up.
Thumbs
out.
Like,
thumbs out. There we go.
Like you give it a... Yay!
But I'm actually giving it a thumbs up. This movie deserves a thumbs up, and if I was to put it on a scale of 0 to 10, I'm going to say this movie gets my honest representation of a 7.5 out of 10. The reason I put it that high, though, is like I said, the characters were weak. Some of the plot lines were weak.
Yeah.
But Guillermo Del Toro, having his hand in the practical effects of the monsters, that really boosted it up. And the fact that for as unintentionally scary as some other movies have been that we've reviewed, this one did its job perfectly for what it was.
Wow, we're actually gonna have a disagreement because I'm gonna twist my thumb. I'm gonna go thumbs down because it's because I've seen these tropes time and time again. I mean, they were done all right. I mean, the practical effects were great. It's just the CG was awful.
No, I'm not gonna disagree.
The plot was as
weak.
Unoriginal as Friday the 13th.
Well, okay, this is also based on a book, so it's not gonna feel original.
Yeah, it's not original. And the actors were less than passable, even though they're all unknowns. This is not their fault. So
yeah, that's true.
Even though I will give it a thumbs down, I will say it will become a sleeper hit, and I am very sure that it's destined to become a quote-unquote cult classic.
Oh yeah, it can easily become a cult classic just because it's both dated in the right ways, but I think, in my personal opinion, it's also timeless in the right ways. Dated because of the acting, the CGI, and the way the story feels.
Yeah.
But it's timeless in the practical effects and how they go with initiating their quote-unquote kills and their scares.
Yeah.
Those kills and those scares make it timeless. Everything else dates it. Not only literally in the movie, but not like figuratively, but also literally dates it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I personally respect that. And like I said, Guillermo Del Toro has a great expansive list of perfectly amazing monsters that he's helped bring to life.
I mean, I look at The Shape of Water and Doug Jones as the water creature in that. That was practical effect, and it was beautiful.
Exactly.
I mean, I only saw the trailer. I didn't see the whole movie.
I didn't see the movie either.
But Doug Jones looks amazing in that.
Yeah, he does. And in a lot of other Guillermo Del Toro works, one of the more famous monsters is the one with the hands in it, with the eyeballs in its eyes, or the eyes in its handballs.
Yeah.
Handballs. Wow, I can't speak today.
The eyeballs
in the hand. There we go. For whatever reason, I can't talk anymore. But
it's
that monster, a lot of those monsters that he's done all throughout the past with his practical effects were beautiful, and they legitimately seemed terrifying for what they were.
So, and aside from the Scarecrow and the monster in the Red Room, the rest of them are pretty lackluster for him.
Oh, yeah.
Because I expect more.
Well, they were CGI. I don't think he really has his hand into the CGI.
No.
But every other monster that was there that you can tell was practical was really good. And that alone makes me give that movie a thumbs up. I love monster movies. Like, one of the next horror movies that I want to review on this channel, personally, is the Banana Splits reboot done between Warner Brothers and Sci-Fi.
Yeah,
I am ready.
I don't know why. For some reason, that reminds me of. You remember the Happy Time Murders? It reminds me of that.
Ah, that movie. It's an underrated good one.
I didn't see it.
Oh, it's hilarious. Then again,
Melissa McCarthy's in it. So,
the one reason I say that movie though is pretty worth it is honestly because I like her. I like her work. She's pretty good if she's given the right direction. Now,
like when she. I will say when she's good, it's like, say, like The Heat.
Yep, The Heat, or like when she was on the King of Queens TV show.
And when it's the Ghostbusters reboot, that's very, very bad direction.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say that's one of the worst reboots I've ever seen in my entire life, and thank God we're getting Ghostbusters 3 with the original cast. But my 5-year-old granddaughter, she loves scary movies. 5 years old? Wow.
Scary movies don't disappoint at any age.
My girlfriend's cousin's daughter, who is 5 years old, knows who Chucky and Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees are. So,
see, funny story is when I went to the store one day with my mom in the mall when I was younger, looking for something for my brother for either his birthday or Christmas or something like that. It was still Halloween time, so we were just doing some shopping a little early. And I think it was Spencer's, because they had an automated Chucky doll that when you walked past it, it would turn on and do something.
I remember seeing those in Spencer's.
I loved horror movies. I could sit there and watch every horror movie out to date, not have nightmares, and instead laugh at them whether I enjoyed it or not. But the minute I see anything relatively close to realistic of that monster in real life as a child, I was so scared I could literally be believed to be a stone statue. Like, I could not move or anything. So what does my mom do when I'm in the store with her and I see that? She has to drag me through the store like I am a giant rock on her leg.
Yeah.
And then as we go past it, the thing does what? It moves, it activates, and I get scared.
Did it do the laugh?
It did the laugh. And
I've actually been practicing to do the laugh.
And see, though, when it happened, I actually almost wet myself as that child because I was legitimately terrified. I thought it was a real Chucky doll, not a Chucky doll. Like I thought it was the legitimately used Chucky doll and that it was actually gonna come out and try to kill me. Not, oh, it's just a replica toy.
Like,
and it also kept moving. Like, it looked like it was gonna come right at me and start running, and I was just terrified.
That was good.
But overall, this movie, like Michael said, we're split on this one. I gave it a thumbs up. He gave it a thumbs down. I'd say it's a 7.5 out of 10.
I give it a 5 out of 10, really. I give it the points for the impressive practical effects. I give it points for
Guillermo Del Toro.
Yeah, Guillermo Del Toro, who I have a lot of respect for, even though I'm not big on the horror genre. And
Pansy.
Hey, hey, I will say, the very first film that he and I ever saw together, the remake of Child's Play, I legitimately like that. I legitimately like that film.
We'll have to revisit that one at some point. Give it give that whole review a reboot.
Yeah, like we'll create a series like who did it better, the original or the remake?
Are you talking about pulling a nostalgia critic and going old versus new?
Yeah, but doing it better. I thought the Chucky-looking dolls in Toy Story 4 were...
Well, see, this one...
There was a Chucky doll in Toy Story 4?
Somewhere. I mean, there were some marionette-like puppets.
Oh, I remember... I saw the puppets in the trailer. They looked like Slappy from Goosebumps.
Yep.
Yeah, they were Slappy from Goosebumps.
But, no, actually, I think you'd be able to handle this one, Marilyn. It's not really scary. It's more of a thriller, and like we said, there's only, like, maybe 2 jump scares.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
2 jump scares, you're good.
2 forced scares, and the other ones were, if any, really natural. And it plays really well on the whole aspect of building it up to be more of a thriller than a straight-up horror film.
Right. Because
most horror films that I've seen, like Brightburn, that one was straight-up horror because it was somebody going on a murderous rampage.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that, so don't spoil anything for me.
It's great. It's so great.
So overall, guys, I would say pass on scary stories to tell in the dark, but if you are a horror fan and you love Guillermo Del Toro, you will like this fine.
He says pass, I say go for it. This is the first movie we've ever been in a crosshairs on.
Yeah, now we're really Siskel and Ebert. And yeah, and shout out to Marilyn for calling us the next Siskel and Ebert, and we pray that we can live up to those legends. Also, looking forward to the Downton Abbey movie. I have not seen the show, but my mother is a huge fan.
I have never seen Downtown Abbey.
It's Downton, not downtown.
It's
go downtown, Abbey.
Oh, Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
I never heard of it.
We might check that out. I know. What's some of the stuff we got coming up? We got Angry Birds 2. We're gonna check that out.
Yep.
We're gonna check out the Banana Splits. And also, and those of us knowing, we are not gonna do a review of Good Boys. That is off limits. We are not doing that one
because he doesn't like crude humor. And honestly, if we do a review on that, it's gonna be way more crude than it should be.
The main reason is because Seth Rogen. I don't really care for Seth Rogen. Sorry if you're fans of Seth Rogen.
Now, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in there. I understand why he doesn't like Seth Rogen, and for that, I'm fine with not doing a review on some Seth Rogen movies. So I'm fine on passing on this one because the way the trailers look is
it looks
kind of like Bad Grandpa, but worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Bad Grandpa's was done by the people of Jackass. This one's just done by a stoner. That's the group's name.
I know.
And it's also the name of a show and a movie, so and that's what they call donkeys. So you can't pin that on me.
You're a donkey.
Boy, don't make me. Sarah Bellum, tell me a story. Oh, Lord.
Don't kick me, mule. Anyway, I'm kidding, bro.
This man.
Overall, guys, I will say, if you're very curious, you'll like this fine. I will say it's a great rental. I think it's going to be a great rental, either on Netflix or at Family Video, if you still go there.
I do, actually, sometimes. Honestly, though, like I said, it could be a guilty pleasure, and it's a nice little thriller for getting into the start of Halloween. I know we've got a little bit.
Also, another thing. Another one we're checking out, It Chapter 2.
Yes.
We'll be checking that one out.
We're going to be checking out both of Stephen King's newest releases when they come out. Dr. Sleep and Stephen King.
Yeah, I will say Dr. Sleep looks very interesting, and definitely read up on the book before you see the film.
I will say this. I have listened to The Shining on Audible. So Audible, if you're listening to us anyway, sponsor us. Audible is great. I used it for The Shining, so now all I have to do when my next credit hits my account is just sit there and reap the rewards of listening to Dr. Sleep, because both Stephen King's It and Dr. Sleep look really good. I've heard great things of the novelization. There's just some things I'm really hoping they're not plotting on adapting from it.
Like, do some Harry Potter reruns before Halloween.
You play them and we'll be here, depending on our schedules.
Yeah. Yeah, also, really great shout out to Marilyn Ullman, who, thank you so much for having us. We love the Lincoln Grand. Just, thank you.
It's a phenomenal place.
Phenomenal place. Thank you
and we
so
appreciate
much.
your hospitality with it.
Such great hospitality. Thank you, thank you. If you guys are in the Lincoln area and you're looking for a great movie theater, definitely come to the Lincoln Grand.
You won't regret it. It's a nice little place where you'll be able to come in and you'll be greeted by happy faces. The theater seats are really comfy, and it's just...
And they keep it clean. Thank God.
It's a really nice little theater. The bathrooms look beautiful.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever been able to compliment a theater on a bathroom.
Lincoln Family Theater, yes. We always call it the Lincoln Grand, but it's now called the Lincoln Family Theater. Either way, it's still great.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it's not bad anymore.
But if you come in here, you'll get to see Marilyn's new logo that she was able to be a massive part in creating. So if you want to come in here for anything, at least come check out the logo, and while you're here, stay for a flick.
Yeah. So overall, guys, I give it a thumbs down.
I give it a thumbs up.
So whatever your taste, whatever you're into, I'm pretty sure you'll like this.
Or you'll don't.
Because there are scarier films out there and better for you. So until next time, I'm Michael Eaton.
And I'm Zach, and we're the two dudes who do reviews.
Take care.